Hello everyone, this is Eye on Africa for Friday, May 20th. Here are the headlines. They're calling it the Durban Call to Action. Participants in a global conference vow to do more to eliminate child labor. It is believed that there are more working children in sub-Saharan Africa than in the rest of the world combined. As the UK gets ready to deport more than 50 asylum seekers to Rwanda, we talked to the founder of an NGO which wants to take the British government to court over the new policy. And we'll take you to Liberia, where the residents of Robertsport are trying to turn their small fishing town into one of the world's new capitals of surf. But we begin with in the Ivory Coast, where the COP15 of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification is wrapping up. 5,000 delegates from 196 countries have spent 10 days debating concrete measures to restore land to its natural state. Africa, in particular, is rapidly losing forests and arable lands. France 24's Hanan Farjani joins us from Abijan for more. Hanan, what have delegates and participants agreed on?
Well, Wasim, what I can tell you first and foremost is that those were 10 tough days of negotiations that just concluded in Abijan, and that, the delegates of, from all regions of the world that participated in this COP15 conference, try their best to push and move the needle in one direction or another. In the end, they did not agree on a binding protocol, moving forward to tackle desertification and land droughts across the world, and particularly in the regions that are particularly concerned with this issue, the African countries in particular. That was something that African countries were really pushing for, as I said, because they feel directly concerned, but some quote-unquote more developed countries such as the US, Japan, and Canada were not for a binding protocol, and specifically did not agree to be the ones to finance such an action plan and mechanism. So really, we've talked to some environmentalists, especially African environmentalists tonight, who have told us that although they salute some of the efforts that were made and the strides that were also attained during these talks, that they think that there's still much to be done in order to tackle the issue of desertification and, attain land degradation and neutrality by 2030. There was one thing, however, that all the delegates agreed on, and that was the creation of an intergovernmental group that will keep working on these issues and, make sure that the climate risks that they pose are tackled, and hopefully come up with an action plan in the next few months or years. And if there's one takeaway from all of this, is that everybody agrees that there's so much more to be done in order to translate the decisions that were, the talks that were had into concrete measures, and to be able to obtain a binding protocol like the one that people often refer to, which is the Paris Climate Accord.
Press 24's Hanan Farjani reporting there from Abidjan, what appears to be a somewhat of a disappointing outcome for environmentalists and African countries alike. Hanan, thank you very much. To Mali now, where armed men have kidnapped 3 members of an Italian family as well as their Togolese domestic worker. The mayor of the small southern town of Sinsina says the men broke into the home of the Christian missionary couple Thursday night. The two are Jehovah's Witnesses who were working to set up a church in the town. Italy's foreign minister says authorities are following developments. The British government has informed about 50 asylum seekers that they will soon be deported to Rwanda. That's part of the country's new policy for people seeking asylum arriving in the UK. It's been pitched as an attempt to disrupt the business of people smugglers, but rights groups say deportations are a traumatizing experience, especially to a country with a poor human rights record like Rwanda. Earlier, I spoke to Clare Moseley, the founder of Care4Calais. She explained why her organization and 2 others want to take the British government to court over the new policy.
Well, we believe this policy is absolutely brutal. You're taking incredibly traumatized people who have escaped from literally the worst things in the world. So to be a refugee, something terrible has already happened to you. And then they're going to be subject to the extreme trauma of another deportation right across the globe. So it's absolutely, it is a brutal thing to do, and that's why we want to stop it.
You say that there is a lack of transparency over how these deportations will be decided, who will be chosen to be deported. What would you like to know?
One of the issues in the case is that they haven't yet published the criteria over who is going to be chosen to be sent to Rwanda. And it's very important that people understand the law and have the ability to defend themselves. And without those criteria being made public, we don't feel that people have that opportunity.
And you say that your organization said that these deportations will be very traumatizing. What kind of impacts do you expect to see if these people were to be, in fact, deported to Rwanda?
We are already seeing the worst impacts. We're seeing people who are so frightened they are threatening and even trying to commit suicide. There's nothing worse that you can do to a refugee. The one thing that they want is safety. That's, they've escaped from terrible things. They've gone on horrific journeys of thousands of miles. They've given everything to try to get to safety. It's their one goal. And to tell them they're going to be deported again to an unknown future, somewhere that they don't feel safe, it's taking everything away from them. So there's really nothing you could do that would be worse than to take away that feeling of safety.
And in this legal challenge, you say that you know that this change in policy will not act as a deterrent. How are you so sure?
There's a couple of reasons. I mean, the main one is that our government has followed quite a few policies that are all based on deterrence, and none of them have any impact. I mean, the basic idea, a refugee is fleeing from something that is so awful. They might have seen their families killed, they might have suffered torture, they might have suffered persecution. They've risked their lives to get away from those things. And in that context, threatening them with something else, when they're already in a traumatized state, it's not going to make a difference. Deterrence is not a good policy with refugees, and it's certainly a very reprehensible policy to take, incredibly vulnerable people and then essentially threaten them to get them to do what you want. We don't believe that's the right way forward.
The 5th Global Conference on the Elimination of Child Labor concluded in Durban, South Africa today. It was an historic event on multiple fronts. It was the first time the conference was held in Africa and the first time that children were included as speakers. It is estimated that 1 in 10 children around the world are affected by child labor, and more of these working children are in sub-Saharan Africa than in the rest of the world combined. Well, on Friday, participating countries adopted the Durban Call to Action to eliminate child labor. France 24's Nadine Theron has more.
According to the International Labour Organization, child labour increased for the first time in 2 decades in 2020, with the COVID-19 crisis partially to blame for pushing millions of more children into the workforce. With most of these 163 million children working in agriculture in Africa, achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goal of ending child labour by 2025 is a challenge on the continent. Half of the children are in hazardous work, endangering their health, safety and moral development. Lucky Agbavor from Ghana is one of them. He started working in the fishing and agricultural industries at the age of 4. He nearly died as a result, but managed to save enough funds to pay his way through high school.
What actually brought me this far is education. I came out of child labor or hard labor because of education. And so I am proposing humbly, and of course it has been discussed over the past few days in this conference, that governments across the globe should make sure education is made free and accessible to every person. And of course, a quality education. I have been sent to this place so that my voice would matter, that whatever someone is going through as a young child, there is hope.
Agbavor is studying towards a nursing degree and hopes to become a medical doctor and a politician to change the situation for children who grew up like him. Achieving children's rights to education is one of the commitments made in the Durban Call to Action that was adopted by 187 participating countries on Friday. The call to action also includes ending child labour in agriculture, providing decent work for adults, universal child protection and increased international finance and cooperation to end child labour.
7,000 runners took to the streets of Cairo this Friday to take part in the annual half marathon. This year's edition of the 21-kilometer race aimed to raise awareness about depression and mental health. CAIRO runners, which is the group that organized the race, said that mental health was often overlooked in Egypt and that it was their role to help end the stigma around it. A 10-kilometer race, 5-kilometer fun run, a family run, and a run for the differently abled were also held. Here's one participant talking about how running helps her cope with everyday stress.
My job is stressful. I relieve that pressure through exercise. Running reduces stress and helps maintain emotional stability. Running also makes you think better and helps you with meditation. It helps us with self-control and mental health.
Finally tonight, let's take you to Liberia, to a small fishing town called Robertsport, just a few kilometers from the border with Sierra Leone. The town has gained recognition as a great surfing spot thanks to its high-quality waves. And locals now want to make the place one of the world's surf capitals. Laurent Berthacher has the story.
When Musa Shannon opened his beach bar 14 years ago, nobody in Robertsport had ever heard of surfing. But the small fishing village, which lies on the Liberian coast, has slowly developed into one of the best spots to catch waves in West Africa.
Surf has been good to us. It's given us a lot of notoriety. It's brought a lot of attention. It's brought a lot of international recognition. Most importantly, it's given the young people of Robertsport an opportunity to express themselves in a sport that they never knew before.
The Liberia Surf Club now holds a yearly competition on the beaches of Robertsport. But with only a $100 cash prize for the winner, locals can't make a living from surfing just yet. Many surfers see the town as a diamond in the rough, a place with the potential to become a global surfing destination.
The waves are world class. I've surfed a lot of waves around the world, and what you have in Robertsport is up there with the top in the world, and I hope this place gets to grow and develop through surfing.
Surfing as a driver of tourism, but also to give opportunities for locals to learn and maybe one day turn professional. Many also hope Liberia's growing reputation as a surfer's paradise can help erase the stigma of the country's civil war.
That does it for this edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned to France 24.